Why do we have to go through painful seasons in our lives? Like, why do we have to go through moments of disappointment, discouragement, and pain? If you've been asking these questions and you've been wondering, why exactly am I going through what I am going through? Then stick with me to the end of this video, as the Lord will be opening your eyes to see that there is purpose in your pain. Joseph in the scriptures, according to Genesis chapter 37 from verse 5, slept and had a wonderful dream. And he woke up and he was discussing and he was sharing with his parents and his siblings, and he said, "Oh, I had a pleasant dream," and he was telling them how that the sun and the moon were bowing to him and the stars, and how that, in the garden, every other cherubs were bowing to his cherubs. And literally, it was like a display of his future, and that without doubt, his future was going to be bright. Now, you would have expected, just like me, that if God has called you an excellency, shouldn't you be on your way to the palace? But then, Joseph found himself in the pit. He moved from his father's house, and his brothers hated him, and they threw him in the pit. And from there, he was sold into slavery. And not just that, Potiphar's wife lied against him, and he was thrown into the prison. Now, I'm sure Joseph would have been wondering, God, what exactly is going on here? Like, God, I don't understand. What is this? What am I going through? I found the scripture, Hebrews chapter 5 from verse 8 to 9, and it gave me a clearer understanding of how that there is purpose in our pain. Hebrews chapter 5 from verse 8 to 9. Scripture said, "Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him." Now, let me break this down. That scripture was talking about Jesus, and he said Jesus learned obedience through the things that he suffered. And after that time out, he became the author of eternal salvation. Now, from that scripture, we can see that the process of suffering, the process of pain, is not to destroy us as believers. It is not to destroy us as believers. It is a process of making. It is a process of building, and it is a process of learning. It is a process of becoming, because Jesus became the author of eternal salvation. So, what should we do in this process of pain? What should we do in the season of our lives? Number one, we must focus on what God is teaching us through the process. Many times we are quick to say, "God, why is this happening? Why is, we're just asking several questions." But the right question should be, what exactly are you trying to teach me through this process? So many times God is teaching us obedience. Many times God is teaching us how to depend on him completely. Many times God is teaching us how to build our faith. He's teaching us how to build intimacy with him, fellowship with him. But many times we do not even wait. We are not even patient. And it is in these seasons when we do not have an understanding of why we are going through what we are going through, the devil uses it as an avenue to discourage us. So we begin to feel discouraged. We don't feel like praying anymore. We don't feel like going to church. We're just complaining. We feel unloved, and so many things begins to happen. So we must understand what God is trying to teach us and focus on what God is trying to teach us. I'll keep saying that if Joseph had gone from his father's house to the throne, he would have fumbled. He would have. Because Nebuchadnezzar fumbled when he was on the throne. Scripture made us to understand that he literally looked at his kingdom and he said, look at these beautiful things that I have done with my power. My power and my majesty and my might has brought me these mighty things. And scripture made us to understand that he was stripped of his glory. He became an animal, literally was eaten with animals for good 7 years. But Joseph was able to stay on the throne because he had learnt major life lessons through the things that he had suffered. He had learned obedience, he had learned trusting in God, he had learned how to fear God, he had learned how to honor God. So by the time when eventually he got to the palace, he got to the throne, but he did not touch the glory of God. He did not toy with God's glory because he had gone through the process of making. So let God make you through this process and focus on the things that he's trying to teach you. The second thing that you need to know in this season is that God is with you. Many times the devil tried to make us to understand that God has forgotten us. Oh, God has forgotten you. That's why he's not answering your prayers. That's why you're going through this pain and these problems. Despite all that Joseph went through, scripture kept saying that, and God was with him. He was in his master's house, he was prospering because God was with him. He was in the prison, he was able to interpret dreams because God was with him. We must understand that God is with us. Psalm 23 verse 4, it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, these painful seasons, these crushing seasons, many times feels like the valley of the shadow of death. And it did not, scripture is not even saying we'll run through. It's saying we will walk through. So you have to walk through this valley. But then one thing you need to know is that God is with you. God is with you. God is with us in this season. So having that understanding gives you strength. It gives you confidence. It gives you hope. And you are able to wait patiently on God because you have an understanding that is with you. Scripture made us to understand that we do not have an high priest that cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmity. So God is fully aware. He is Jehovah El Roi, the God that sees us. He sees you, my sister. He sees you, my brother. And he knows what you're going through. So you have to understand that God has not forgotten. And the third thing that you need to know is that this season will pass. This too shall pass. Many times the devil tried to make us understand that this season is going to go forever. Like this pain is going to continue forever. No. First Peter chapter 5 verse 10 made us to understand that after we have gone through this season of pain for a while, he said that the Lord of all grace will perfect us, will establish us, everything that he has promised will begin to come to pass after we have gone through this process. So this process is going to end. Joseph also felt this same way, the suffering, the prison experiences and everything. But then one day, he slept as a prisoner and he woke up to become an excellency. And that is God. It doesn't take him, years. It can lift you in a second. It can lift you in a moment. But what he expects in this season is that we should be unwavering. Is that we should keep our faith. Is that we should be consistent in our love for him. We should keep loving him. We should keep trusting him. We should keep holding on to him. And we will realize that eventually this too shall pass. So I have a question for you. Has there ever been a time you went through a painful season in your life, or are you currently going through a season like this in your life? How exactly are you holding up, and what exactly are you doing? Someone in the comment section might benefit from your experience and from your comments. I want to believe you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please don't forget to drop a thumbs up and don't forget to join the family by subscribing for more content like this. Thank you. See you. Bye.